Our new neighbors gave us a recipe. It's why the last family is buried in the garden. The last time I saw my wife, she told me I was a disease. Her voice was as calm and sweet as the day we met, but her eyes held the placid, terrifying resolve of a saint. And in her hand, she held the big chef's knife from the block on our kitchen counter. It started, as these things always seem to, with a dream come true: a house. After a decade of breathing recycled air in shoebox apartments, Anja and I finally bought a house. It was in a little tucked-away development called Willow Creek, the kind of place with white picket fences and oak trees that looked like they were planted by Norman Rockwell himself. It felt like we'd finally made it. We were real adults. We weren't even done with the moving truck when he showed up. Mr. Abernathy, a man whose smile seemed permanently etched onto his kind, weathered face. He was the head of the neighborhood association, he said, and he came bearing a welcome basket on behalf of the whole community. It was a lovely wicker thing filled with wine, fresh bread, and a small hand-painted ceramic crock-pot. Tucked inside was a recipe card, written in elegant looping cursive on thick, cream-colored paper. At the top, it said, "The Hearth Broth." "A little tradition of ours," Mr. Abernathy explained, his eyes twinkling. "Every new family gets the starter. You make a pot once a season. It's how we all stay connected. Keeps the roots of the community strong, if you know what I mean." Anja, who could make friends with a brick wall, was absolutely charmed. I've always been the cynic, but I had to admit it was a warm welcome. I picked up the recipe card. The ingredients were eccentric. It called for the usual suspects: beef stock, root vegetables, thyme. But then the list got strange, a tear of true joy shed in your new home. A clipping of your own hair, burned to ash. The first rainwater of the month. And the final, most important ingredient was the small packet of starter soil included in the basket, a spoonful of Willow Creek earth. It felt like some kind of folksy New Age ritual, but harmless enough. Anja was excited. It was our first official act as homeowners, as members of a real community. That weekend, we made the broth. The process was weirdly intimate. We caught the spring rain in a mason jar. Anja cried laughing when I nearly dropped our new television, and she carefully collected a single tear on her fingertip. We snipped 2 tiny locks of our hair and burned them in a spoon until they were nothing but fine, gray ash. It felt silly and deeply profound all at once. We mixed it all together with the dark, rich soil from the packet and let it simmer. Our new house filled with a smell I've never been able to describe since. It was earthy and savory, but with a sweet, almost metallic undertone, like fresh blood and blooming flowers. That night, we ate. The broth was incredible. Rich, complex, and deeply, deeply comforting. After the meal, a feeling washed over me, a profound sense of peace. It was more than just contentment. It was a complete absence of anxiety, of fear, of all the jagged little worries that had followed me my whole life. I looked at Anja, her face bathed in the warm glow of our new dining room, and my heart swelled with a love so pure and powerful it felt like it might burst from my chest. And the feeling extended beyond her. I felt an overwhelming affection for Mr. Abernathy, for the faceless neighbors in the identical houses, for the soil under my feet. I was home. I belonged. For months, life was perfect. We became part of the neighborhood. The constant, low-level buzz of contentment never faded. It was our new normal. The cynical part of me, the part that always looked for the catch, just went dormant. Life was good. There was no catch. But old habits die hard. My inner cynic wasn't dead, just sleeping, and it started to notice things. Tiny, perfect little details that didn't add up. No one in Willow Creek ever got sick. Not a sniffle, not a cough. Kids played out in the freezing rain and were perfectly fine the next day. The older folks, like Mr. Abernathy, were impossibly vigorous, with smooth skin and clear, bright eyes. And the gardens, my God, the gardens. Every lawn was a carpet of flawless green. Every flower bed exploded with vibrant, impossible color. Our own pathetic little vegetable patch, which we'd given up on, had transformed into a lush, thriving jungle overnight. We hadn't touched it. And the biggest thing, the thing that really started to gnaw at me late at night, nobody ever moved out. Not once did a for sale sign pop up. People who came to Willow Creek stayed, forever. About 2 months ago, one of the older residents, a man named Mr. Henderson, passed away in his sleep. He was 98. The neighborhood's response was a display of quiet, dignified grace. They held a small memorial by the creek. There was no funeral. No family came from out of town. It was all handled internally. A week later, a new couple moved into his house. Casimir and his wife. Young, bright-eyed, just like us. I watched from my window as Mr. Abernathy led the welcoming committee to their door. I saw him hand over the same wicker basket. I knew what was inside. A few weeks after that, I woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of a car starting. From my bedroom window, I saw Casimir frantically throwing bags into the back of his sedan. His movements were wild, panicked. He kept glancing back at his own dark house like it was haunted. Then he peeled out of his driveway, tires screaming against the silent asphalt, and was gone. The next morning, his wife reported him missing. The neighborhood mobilized with a calm, practiced efficiency that was chilling to watch. Search parties were formed. Flyers were printed. They comforted the distraught wife with a seamless, communal embrace. But it all felt hollow. A performance. The search parties combed the woods with smiles on their faces, chatting pleasantly. They weren't looking for him. They were making sure he was gone. That evening, Mr. Abernathy called an emergency neighborhood meeting in the community park. He stood before us, his expression a perfect mask of solemnity. "I'm afraid I have tragic news," he said, his voice resonating with practiced warmth. "The search is over. It seems, Casimir, he lost control of his vehicle on the old mountain pass. The car went into a ravine. He was gone into a ravine. He was gone instantly." A soft, collective murmur of sadness rippled through the crowd. It sounded rehearsed. "The sheriff has been informed, of course," Abernathy continued, "but it appears there was alcohol involved. A terrible, senseless accident. He let that sink in. What's important now is that we take care of our own. His wife is one of us, and we will surround her with the love and support of this community." A sliver of my old self, cold and sharp, cut through the warm fog in my head. "Wait," I said. My voice sounded like a gunshot in the quiet. "Shouldn't the police be handling this? Don't they need to recover the body?" Mr. Abernathy's smile didn't falter, but it tightened at the corners of his eyes. "That won't be necessary. A few of us took care of it. We brought him home. He's been returned to the earth, in his own garden. It's better not to involve outsiders, with all their messy paperwork and questions. We are a community. We handle our own." "That's not right," I stammered, a wave of vertigo washing over me. "That's not legal." "Lev, stop," Anja whispered, her hand clamping onto my arm like a vice. "Don't make things difficult. They know what's best. It's cleaner this way." I looked at her. Her eyes, usually so full of sharp intelligence, were placid and serene. There was a strange, tiny fleck of gold in her irises that I'd never noticed before. Her expression held no doubt, only a deep, unshakable faith. That night, sleep was impossible. The warm blanket of the broth's contentment was gone, and I was left shivering in a cold, stark reality. I had to know. I waited until Anja's breathing was deep and even. Then I slipped out of bed. I crept down the silent street to Casimir's house. The back door was unlocked. The house was pristine, except for one room, a home office. It had been torn apart. Papers were everywhere. In the middle of the floor was a half-packed duffel bag, and on the desk, surrounded by microscopes and petri dishes, I found his notes. He wasn't a journalist. He was a mycologist, a fungus expert. He hadn't been writing in a journal. He'd been documenting a discovery. I read his frantic, scrawled observations, and the blood in my veins turned to ice. It's a cordyceps, of a kind I've never seen. The spores are endemic to the soil of this entire area. The hearth broth isn't a tradition, it's a method of infection. Ingestion leads to a symbiotic colonization of the host's nervous system. It rewires the brain, eliminates individualistic impulses, fear, suspicion, dissent, and replaces them with a powerful, chemically induced sense of communal belonging. The root systems of the plants, the trees, they're all connected. It's not a collection of gardens, it's one vast subterranean organism, a single consciousness. And we, the residents, are its protectors, its extensions. We tend to it, and in return, it gives us peace, health, contentment. It makes us love our cage. But it has a defense mechanism. Anything that threatens the whole, any element that resists assimilation, it is perceived as a pathogen, a disease. The organism compels the other hosts to neutralize the threat, to eliminate it, and to feed the soil. It's how the gardens stay so lush. I tried to get my wife to leave, but she's already part of it. I have to get out. Tonight. Before they decide I'm a weed that needs pulling, I drop the papers, the perfect health, the impossible gardens, the unshakable peace. It all crashed down on me. I ran back to my house, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had to get Anja. We had to go, now. She was in the kitchen. The lights were off, save for the pale glow of the moon through the window. She was sitting at the table, humming a low, tuneless melody, slowly spooning something from a bowl. The earthy, sweet smell of the hearth broth filled the room. "Anja, what are you doing?" I hissed, stumbling into the room. I snatched the bowl from her hands and threw it into the sink. It shattered. "You can't eat that stuff. It's not food. It's controlling us." She looked up at me. There was no fear, no anger. Only a soft, pitying disappointment. The golden flecks in her eyes seemed to shimmer. "Don't be foolish, Lev," she said, her voice a placid hum. "I was just feeling a little out of tune. The broth helps. It always helps us reconnect. You should have some. You've been so agitated. No, you don't get it. Casimir, they didn't find him in a ravine. They killed him. They fed him to the ground. This whole neighborhood, it's a thing. It's a fungus," I was babbling, frantic. Anja just sighed, a sound of infinite, weary patience. "You're upsetting the harmony," she said, her voice losing its warmth, becoming as cold and hard as stone. "You need to accept the gift. You need to be part of the body." She rose from her chair and turned to the counter. My blood ran cold when her hand went to the knife block. She drew out the long chef's knife, its edge gleaming in the moonlight. She turned to face me. The look in her eyes was no longer human. It was ancient and calm and utterly without mercy. "If you will not be a part of the body," she whispered, "then you are a disease, and the body must heal itself." She took one slow, deliberate step towards me. I didn't think, I just ran. I burst out the front door and clawed at my pockets for my car keys. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely fit the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life, a sacrilegious noise in the crushing silence of the night. I slammed the car into reverse and tore out of my driveway, away from my perfect house, away from the woman I loved more than life itself. I sped down the tree-lined street that was the only way in or out. As I approached the edge of the development, the municipal line that separated our little paradise from the real world, the car sputtered. The engine coughed. And then it died. The car rolled to a dead stop. I slammed my fist on the steering wheel and looked out the window. And I saw it. The perfect, manicured lawn on the roadside, it wasn't solid. It was soft, loamy, and it was churning. Thick, pale, grasping roots were breaking through the surface, wrapping around my tires, pulling the car down into the earth. The whole neighborhood was trying to digest my escape. I threw the door open and scrambled out. A low hum had started, a vibration I could feel in the soles of my feet. It was coming from the ground, from all the houses at once. It was the sound of the hive waking up. I ran. The painted white line on the asphalt, the border of Willow Creek, was 50 yards away. The air grew thick, heavy, like I was running through syrup. I could feel the roots tearing at the asphalt behind me, grasping for my ankles. The humming grew louder, a chorus of absolute unity that wanted to pull me back, to make me one with the whole. With a final, desperate, lung-burning push, I dove. I hit the pavement on the other side of the line hard, scraping my hands and knees raw. The moment my body was fully across, the humming stopped. The air cleared. I scrambled to my feet and looked back. The street was empty. The trees were still. My car was gone, leaving only a patch of freshly turned, impossibly green grass where it had been. The world was normal again. I'm writing this from a cheap motel room 100 miles away. I don't know what to do. How do you report something like this? Officer, my neighborhood is a sentient fungus, and my wife tried to prune me from the collective. They'd lock me up and throw away the key. I can't save her. She doesn't want to be saved. She's home. She belongs. I check my eyes in the bathroom mirror a dozen times a day, searching for a telltale fleck of gold. So far, they're clear. But sometimes, when it's quiet, I can still hear a faint, low humming in the back of my mind. And I know my perfect, idyllic life is back there, in that quiet, tree-lined cul-de-sac, happy and whole and patiently waiting for me to come home.